The leader of the official opposition this week cleared the air over her party affiliation. Free National Movement leader Dr. Tribune slammed the government, and an Anglican archdeacon says black people simply pray too much. We've got those stories and others. I'm your host, Krishna Virgil, and this is the Tribune's Top 5. After a letter purportedly written by the official opposition leader circulated on social media, Long Island MP Loretta Butler Turner cleared the air, saying she was still very much a part of the Free National Movement.
Mrs. Butler Turner on Sunday criticized her party for its decision to revoke her nomination and ratify another candidate without due process, firmly stating her intentions to contest her seat in the upcoming general election. However, Mrs. Butler Turner strongly pushed back against speculation that sought to infer that a statement from her to party officials, which was leaked over the weekend and circulated online, amounted to a resignation from the Free National Movement. In an email sent to the Tribune, she explained, quote, "As an incumbent MP whose ratification has been revoked and subsequently a new candidate named without due process, as articulated in the FNM Constitution, the FNM has created a bogus or illegal position. In effect, they have undermined and circumvented the constitutional process in an attempt to prevent me from running as an FNM. My response, as you will note, is in no way a resignation from the FNM, but rather a statement demonstrating that I will not be subjected to a leadership or a party that disregards and corrupts the rule of law to achieve personal objectives," end quote. Mrs. Butler Turner was responding to questions placed by the Tribune after a letter purportedly written by her was circulated on social media. Confirming the letter, the Long Island MP explained that she was prompted to issue a response to notice of a special meeting on Wednesday. Serious crimes in the Bahamas declined by 26% in 2016, the most significant year-to-year drop since 2004, Police Commissioner Ellison Greenslade revealed on Wednesday. Describing 2016 as extremely productive for police, Commissioner Greenslade, addressing his annual meeting with the press, said, quote, "We aligned ourselves with all of those action points in the policing plan that we put to you in 2016, and those actions that we took in a collaborative fashion produced extremely good dividends," end quote. According to police, the overall decrease in serious crimes was influenced by the double-digit decrease in almost every category of crime, he said. This included a 24% drop in murders, falling from a record 146 in 2015 to 111 in 2016, according to police statistics. The murder total last year was the lowest since 2012, though it continued to conform with the concerning high murder rate trend that began within the last decade. The RBPF's record of murders in 2016 differs from the Tribune's total of 114. However, Commissioner Greenslade said some matters reported by police last year are before the coroner and have therefore not been classified as yet. Nonetheless, 85% of the murders last year were committed with the use of a gun, compared to 12 committed with a knife. 72 of the murder victims in 2016 were adult men between 18 and 35, and 7 were women.
Disconnected from reality, that was how Free National Movement leader Dr. Tribune described Prime Minister Perry Christie.
Free National Movement leader Dr. Tribune on Thursday scoffed at Prime Minister Perry Christie's recent assessment of his administration's term in office, accusing the nation's leader of being disconnected from reality in the face of crime, vexing unemployment, and secret deals negotiated by his government. While suggesting that Mr. Christie had no reason to celebrate, the Killarney MP also castigated the Prime Minister for taking a victory lap over the sale and remobilization of Bahamar, while still not revealing the hidden details of the agreement. He said in a press statement, quote, "After reading today's headlines, I am not sure what country the Prime Minister is living in. The Prime Minister cannot be talking about the same country that you and I know, where crime is still destroying families, where unemployment and underemployment remains abysmally high, where negotiations are done in secret to the benefit of the Chinese over Bahamians, and where the red carpet is rolled out for foreigners, while Bahamians are wrapped up in the proverbial red tape," end quote. Despite a term in office defined by controversy and criticism, on Wednesday, Mr. Christie insisted that his administration has done an outstanding job for and on behalf of Bahamians. While the nation's leader said he wouldn't describe himself at this point as confident headed into the impending general election, Mr. Christie said he believed that if justice is done, Bahamians will see that the Progressive Liberal Party has earned their confidence in being able to govern the country for the next 5 years. Dr. Minnis, who has been constant in his demands for the court records and documents connected with the sale of Bahamar to be released to the public, he contended that the Bahamian people wanted to know what Mr. Christie was so enthused about. Pointing to the hundreds of protesters that flooded Bay Street chanting "Enough is enough," We March Bahamas lead organizer Renard Henfield on Tuesday forecast that the movement was poised to take over the government at the election polls later this year. Mr. Henfield praised the event's turnout, which he claimed was 3 times the size of the group's Black Friday March in November, as a sign that the people have found their voice. He pledged that the group was working on compiling information gathered through focus groups into the People's Manifesto, an election campaign tool that supporters can use to educate candidates vying for their vote. We March intends to print and distribute 150,000 copies of the brochure at its next march, according to Mr. Henfield, who said that organizers will not announce its date until they apply for cabinet approval next week. Meanwhile, more than 1,000 people marched in solidarity with the governing Progressive Liberal Party on Tuesday morning, commemorating the 50th anniversary of a day Prime Minister Perry Christie described as one of the most significant in the history of the Bahamas. Dressed in colors representing the national flag, the participants marched for nearly 3 hours, singing gospel songs and the national anthem from Windsor Park to Bay Street and finally to the Southern Recreation Grounds for a ceremony. Despite fears that the governing party's March and We March Bahamas protesters would meet along the planned route, the Majority Rule Day March went uninterrupted. Police did not give an estimate of the crowd size when asked by the Tribune. It appeared that some of the participants were bussed in from their various constituencies, as buses emblazoned with the faces of PLP MPs Michael Halkitis, Jerome Fitzgerald, and Kendra Dorset were at the ceremony site.
Anglican Archdeacon James Palacios came under fire this week for his comments at the Majority Rule Day March. He says that Black mothers simply have too much children.
Anglican Archdeacon James Palacios said on Tuesday that Black people breed too much, adding that Bahamian women should stop having babies they cannot afford. Addressing a crowd of supporters at the end of a march to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Majority Rule on the Southern Recreation Grounds, Archdeacon Palacios said unless we find a way to control our reproductive processes, the Bahamas will be stuck recycling poverty. The Archdeacon said while Montague MP Richard Lightbourne's proposal for state-sponsored sterilization of women was most unfortunate, he agrees with the principle of what Mr. Lightbourne was trying to say. While speaking at the Free National Movement's televised convention last July, Mr. Lightbourne proposed that the country adopt legislation that mandates unwed mothers with more than 2 children have their tubes tied in an effort to curtail the country's social ills. His comments drew the ire of many people, with some parliamentarians, local advocacy groups, and others swiftly condemning him for his statements. He has since apologized for the comments. Archdeacon Palacios said on Tuesday, quote, "We live in a society where the rich gets richer and the poor get children. What I mean is this: unless we can control our reproductive process, we will always be recycling poverty." My Member of Parliament, Richard Lightbourne, made some most unfortunate remarks at the FNM convention, which he later apologized for, and that is important. Having said that, let me say this too. The principle of what he was trying to say, I agree totally. Black people breed too much. We have too many children we cannot afford, and as a result of that, we digging ourselves more and more into poverty. If we can't see that, then something is radically wrong with us. End quote. Archdeacon Palacios also criticized the Bahamian people for relying too much on the government and not taking responsibility for their own lives and actions.
Want to get in on the discussion? Well, here's how you can. Just log on to our website at www.tribune242.com. Like us on Facebook, the Tribune News Network. Send us a tweet at Tribune242 or subscribe to our YouTube page, Tribune242.